The emergency klaxon screamed through the research vessel Celestial Dawn as Dr. Nix watched her worst nightmare unfold on the scanner display. Her crystalline fingers clicked against the console in nervous patterns, while toxic readings from the planet below painted everything in angry red warnings. The Velthari scientist had studied dangerous worlds for 30 cycles, but nothing compared to the hellish sphere spinning beneath their damaged ship. "Fusion drive is completely dead," Engineer Bolt announced, his mechanical voice cutting through the chaos. The mechanoid's optical sensors flickered as he processed damage reports flooding his systems. "We have maybe 2 hours before life support fails completely." Captain Thane moved between control stations with practiced efficiency, his forearms working multiple panels simultaneously. The Corellian's usually calm demeanor showed cracks of stress as he studied their limited options. "The nearest inhabited system is 6 days away, even with emergency power. We need to land somewhere." Dr. Nix pulled up atmospheric readings from the planet designated X7 Alpha. "Captain, look at these numbers. Sulfuric acid concentration is off the charts. Methane storms cover 60% of the surface. Radiation levels would cook us in minutes." Her voice trembled as she spoke. "This planet is basically a slow death sentence." "Better than instant death up here," Bolt replied, his sensors already calculating landing trajectories. "At least the ship's hull might protect us long enough to send a distress signal." The ship shuddered as another power coupling failed. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the cramped bridge while the crew prepared for what felt like a suicide mission. None of them noticed the soft footsteps approaching from the cargo bay until a completely unexpected voice broke their concentration. "Excuse me, but did someone say we're landing on X7 Alpha?" All 3 aliens spun around to find a figure standing in the doorway. The creature was tall and lean, with pale pink skin and short brown hair. It wore simple clothing and carried a worn equipment bag over one shoulder. Most shocking of all, it was breathing their ship's air without any protective gear. "By the void," Captain Thane whispered. "A human." Dr. Nix had never seen one in person before, though every galactic citizen knew the stories. Humans came from Terra, a world so dangerous that most species considered it uninhabitable. They called humans deathworlders because they survived conditions that would kill anything else in the known galaxy. But even deathworlders had limits, surely. The human stepped forward with a curious expression. "I'm Ryan Webb, xenobiologist. Sorry about the unauthorized boarding, but I really needed passage to this sector." He gestured toward the scanner displays showing X7 Alpha's toxic readings. "Are those atmosphere readings accurate? You stowed away on our ship?" Captain Thane's voice rose an octave. "Do you have any idea how dangerous our research missions are?" Ryan shrugged. "I study extremophile organisms. Dangerous environments are kind of my specialty." He moved closer to examine Dr. Nix's atmospheric analysis. "Fascinating. These sulfur compound concentrations suggest some really interesting bacterial possibilities." Dr. Nix stared at him in disbelief. "Those compounds would dissolve your tissue in seconds. This planet is completely hostile to carbon-based life." "Well, mostly carbon-based life," Ryan corrected with a slight smile. "Humans are pretty adaptable. Mind if I take a look at the surface scans?" Before anyone could stop him, Ryan was studying their data with obvious excitement. His fingers moved across the displays with practiced ease, pulling up geological surveys and atmospheric pressure readings. The aliens watched in stunned silence as he analyzed conditions that represented certain death to them. "The volcanic activity is creating some unique chemical environments," Ryan murmured, completely absorbed in the data. "These underground gas vents might support some incredible microorganism communities." "You're insane," Bolt stated flatly. "Even if you could somehow survive the atmosphere, which is impossible, the radiation alone would kill you." Ryan looked up with genuine confusion. "Radiation? This level isn't too bad. I mean, it's elevated. But nothing like the readings we get near Terra's polar regions during solar storms." The ship lurched as another system failed. Emergency power was rapidly draining and they could feel the artificial gravity fluctuating. Captain Thane made the only decision he could. "Everyone strap in." We're going down whether we like it or not. As they descended through X7 Alpha's toxic atmosphere, the hull began to vibrate and groan. Warning lights flashed across every panel while the ship fought against corrosive winds that ate at their outer plating. Dr. Nix watched her environmental sensors go crazy as the atmosphere grew thicker and more poisonous. Hull breach in Section 4, Bolt reported. The atmosphere is starting to seep in. Dr. Nix immediately activated the emergency isolation protocols, sealing off compromised sections. We need to get to the secure compartments immediately. Even trace amounts of this atmosphere will be lethal. The aliens rushed toward their emergency shelters, grabbing protective suits and breathing apparatus. But Ryan remained at the scanner station, watching the approaching surface with scientific interest instead of terror. "Ryan," Dr. Nix called out, "you need protection too." He looked back at her with that same puzzled expression. "Oh, right. Do you have a simple breathing mask? Just something to help filter the heavier particles?" Dr. Nix couldn't believe what she was hearing. While she was preparing for full environmental protection, the human was asking for basic dust filtration. She tossed him a simple respirator from the emergency supplies, the kind they used for minor atmospheric cleaning. The ship hit the surface hard, sending everyone tumbling. Metal screamed as the hull cracked in multiple places. Toxic atmosphere began flooding the cargo bay while emergency seals struggled to contain the breach. From their sealed observation deck, the three aliens watched Ryan pull on his basic breathing mask and walk calmly toward the main airlock. He paused to grab a simple toolkit from the emergency supplies, then stepped outside onto the surface of X7 Alpha, as if he was taking a walk in a garden. Through the external cameras, they watched him assess the crash damage while methane snow swirled around him. His exposed skin showed no signs of the chemical burns that should have appeared instantly. The toxic winds that would have dissolved their protective suits seemed to barely affect him. "This is impossible," Dr. Nix whispered, her crystalline hands pressed against the observation window. "Nothing can survive out there." But Ryan was not only surviving, he was working. They watched him examine the hull breaches and damaged systems with the methodical approach of an experienced engineer. Occasionally, he would stop to collect samples of the strange minerals coating the ground, placing them in sample containers with obvious excitement. Captain Thane activated the external communicator. "Ryan, get back inside immediately. The atmospheric exposure will kill you." Ryan's voice came back through the comm, slightly muffled by his basic respirator, but completely calm. "I'm fine out here, Captain, but we have bigger problems. The fusion core is cracked and the primary power coupling is completely fried. Without repairs, none of us are leaving this planet." The aliens stared at each other in growing amazement. Their human passenger was not only surviving conditions that would mean instant death for them, he was already working on solutions to save them all. 3 hours after the crash, Dr. Nix realized she was watching evolution happen in real time. Through the observation deck's reinforced windows, she studied Ryan's vital signs on her medical scanner while he worked outside in conditions that should have killed him 6 times over. His heart rate remained steady, his blood pressure normal, and most impossible of all, his skin temperature was actually regulating itself to match the hostile environment. "His cellular structure is changing," she whispered to herself, adjusting the scanner's sensitivity. "This is completely unprecedented." Outside, Ryan had been methodically exploring their crash site. The celestial dawn had carved a deep furrow across X7 Alpha's rocky surface, scattering debris and critical components across nearly a kilometer of toxic wasteland. What should have been a death march through hell had become, for Ryan, an interesting geological survey. The human paused near a pool of bubbling liquid that registered as concentrated hydrofluoric acid on Dr. Nix's instruments. Instead of running, in terror, he knelt beside it and carefully collected a sample. The acid that would have eaten through their best protective gear barely made his simple sample container warm to the touch. "Captain Thane," Dr. Nix called across their sealed compartment. "You need to see this." The Corellian captain moved over to her monitoring station, his forearms crossed in worry. "Please tell me our human friend has found shelter." "Better than that, watch." Dr. Nix replayed the last hour of external footage. They watched Ryan walk through a methane blizzard that registered wind speeds of over 200 kilometers per hour, temperatures of -40 degrees, and atmospheric pressure that would crush most unprotected beings. The human moved through it like a mild breeze, occasionally pausing to study interesting rock formations. The environmental readings make no sense, Engineer Bolt added from his repair station. His mechanical sensors were running constant diagnostics, trying to understand what they were seeing. The atmospheric composition out there should dissolve organic tissue on contact. The radiation levels alone should have given him fatal poisoning within minutes. Captain Thane watched the footage in silence for several minutes. He had commanded research vessels for over 20 years, exploring some of the galaxy's most dangerous worlds. He had seen species adapt to harsh conditions, but nothing like this. What exactly are we dealing with here? Dr. Nix pulled up her biological scans of Ryan. Near as I can tell, his body is making real-time adjustments to the environment. Look at these readings. She highlighted several data streams flowing across her screen. His liver function has increased by 30% to process the atmospheric toxins. His skin is actually changing color slightly, developing better resistance to the acid rain. Most remarkably, his respiratory system is extracting oxygen from compounds that most species can't even detect. Through the external cameras, they watched Ryan approach the most dangerous part of their situation. The ship's fusion core had cracked during the crash, creating a slow radiation leak that would eventually kill them all. The core itself was buried under several tons of debris that had been soaked in the planet's caustic atmosphere. He can't possibly mean to dig that out by hand, Captain Thane said. But that was exactly what Ryan was doing. Using simple tools from their emergency kit, he began clearing the toxic debris piece by piece. Each chunk of metal and rock was coated with chemical compounds that would have sent the aliens to the medical bay for emergency treatment. Ryan handled them like ordinary construction materials. This is beyond human adaptability, Dr. Nix muttered. This is something completely new. After 2 more hours of work, Ryan uncovered the fusion core. The damage was even worse than their instruments had indicated. Not only was the primary housing cracked, but several key components had been scattered across the crash site. Without those parts, they had no hope of getting off planet. Ryan activated his communicator. I've got good news and bad news. The good news is the core is repairable. The bad news is I need to collect parts that are spread out over about 15 kilometers of terrain. Absolutely not, Captain Thane replied immediately. Ryan, you've already been exposed to lethal levels of toxins. Any more time out there will kill you. There was a pause. Then Ryan's voice came back with what sounded like genuine confusion. Kill me? Captain, I feel fine. Actually, I feel better than fine. My body seems to be adapting to the environment pretty well. Dr. Nix studied her medical readings of the human. He wasn't lying. His vital signs showed someone in excellent health, despite being exposed to an environment that would have been instantly fatal to any other known species. Captain, his readings are actually improving. Whatever biological processes are happening in his body, they're working. This is insane, Engineer Bolt stated. Even if he could survive the atmospheric exposure, some of those components are in areas with even higher toxin concentrations. The eastern debris field is sitting in a lake of liquid sulfur. Liquid sulfur? Ryan's voice came back over the comm with obvious excitement. Really? That's fantastic. I've never had a chance to study thermophilic bacteria in a sulfur lake environment. This planet just keeps getting more interesting. The 3 aliens stared at each other in complete bewilderment. Their passenger was treating a deadly crash landing on a toxic hellworld like the research opportunity of a lifetime. Over the next several hours, they watched Ryan work his way across X7 Alpha's hostile surface. He moved through areas where their instruments detected atmospheric compositions that would have been instantly lethal to them. Acid rain that could dissolve metal bounced off his skin like water. Pockets of neurotoxic gas that would have killed most species in seconds didn't even make him cough. Look at this, Dr. Nix called out, pointing to her latest scans. His blood chemistry is completely different now. His body has developed new enzyme pathways to break down the atmospheric toxins. He's literally evolving as we watch. The most amazing part was Ryan's attitude. Through their communication system, they could hear him making excited observations about the planet's unique geology and atmosphere. He collected samples of everything he encountered, building what he called the most comprehensive extremophile collection in the galaxy. Found the first component, Ryan reported cheerfully. It was sitting in a really interesting mineral formation. The sulfur crystals here have formed these incredible geometric patterns. I'm thinking the atmospheric pressure variations might be creating some kind of natural crystallization process. Captain Thane shook his head in amazement. Ryan, you do realize you're walking through conditions that would kill 99% of known species? Oh, sure, Ryan replied casually. But that's what makes it so interesting. Life finds a way to exist in the most incredible places. Speaking of which, I think I just found evidence of native microorganisms in this sulfur pool. This planet isn't as dead as your initial scans suggested. By the end of the day, Ryan had recovered 3 of the 7 critical components they needed. Each one had been retrieved from increasingly dangerous areas of the crash site. The aliens watched him work with a growing sense of awe and disbelief. I'm starting to understand why humans are called deathworlders, Dr. Nix said quietly. But I don't think the rest of the galaxy really understands what that means. Captain Thane nodded slowly. We're not just watching someone survive an impossible environment. We're watching someone thrive in it. As X7 Alpha's toxic sunset painted the sky in shades of chemical fire, Ryan made camp near the ship. He built a simple shelter using debris from the crash, seemingly unbothered by the fact that he was sleeping in an environment that would have been instantly lethal to most known life forms. Good night, his voice came over the comm. Tomorrow I'll head out for the remaining components. The eastern debris field should be really interesting. My atmospheric reading suggests some unique chemical processes happening over there. The year. 3 aliens settled in for what they expected to be a sleepless night, wondering if their human companion would still be alive in the morning. But Dr. Nix's medical scanner showed Ryan sleeping peacefully, his body continuing its impossible adaptation to X7 Alpha's deadly environment. Dawn on X7 Alpha arrived with a symphony of destruction. Geysers of superheated steam erupted across the landscape, while acid rain hammered the planet's surface like artillery shells. From the safety of their sealed compartment, the alien crew watched Ryan emerge from his makeshift shelter and stretch as if waking up from a peaceful camping trip. Morning, everyone, his voice crackled over the communicator. How's everyone holding up in there? Dr. Nix checked her instruments in disbelief. After 8 hours of exposure to X7 Alpha's toxic atmosphere, Ryan's vital signs looked better than when he had first stepped outside. Ryan, according to my medical scans, your cellular regeneration has increased by 40% overnight. Your body is not just adapting to this environment, it's being improved by it. That's nice, Ryan replied absently. He was already examining the components he had collected the previous day, testing their integrity against the planet's corrosive conditions. I hate to be the bearer of more bad news, but I ran some calculations last night. Even if I collect all the scattered parts, we're still missing one critical component. Captain Thane felt his heart sink. What kind of component? The fusion core needs a crystalline matrix to properly contain the reaction, something with very specific thermal and radiation resistance properties. Ryan pulled out a small scanner and showed them his readings. The good news is, my instruments are detecting exactly what we need about 12 kilometers east of here. Engineer Bolt processed the location data and immediately began protesting. That's impossible. Those coordinates put you in the middle of the scorching barrens. Our orbital surveys showed surface temperatures over 150 degrees Celsius and atmospheric toxicity levels 3 times higher than what you're experiencing now. Plus volcanic activity, Dr. Nix added, pulling up their geological surveys. Active lava flows, toxic gas vents, and mineral deposits that are basically liquid metal. Ryan, even if you could somehow survive the journey, which is completely impossible, the terrain alone would be impassable. Ryan studied their survey data with obvious interest rather than concern. Actually, this looks fascinating from a geological perspective. These thermal readings suggest some really unique mineral formation processes. The crystalline deposits we need are probably being created by the volcanic activity itself. You cannot be seriously considering this, Captain Thane stated firmly. Ryan, I forbid you to attempt this journey. It's pure suicide. With respect, Captain, I don't think you understand human biology very well. Ryan's tone was polite but determined. My body has been adapting to this environment since we arrived. I'm actually feeling stronger and more alert than I have in years. Whatever biological processes are happening, they seem to be working. Dr. Nix watched her medical readings of the human in amazement. He wasn't exaggerating. His cellular activity, muscle tone, and neural function all showed significant improvement over the past day. This is completely unprecedented. Ryan, your body appears to be using the environmental stress as a catalyst for enhanced physical performance. Evolution in real time, Engineer Bolt observed. His species must have developed incredibly flexible biological systems to survive their homeworld. Ryan packed his simple equipment bag and checked his basic breathing apparatus. I should be able to make the journey in 2 days if I push hard. The return trip might take longer, depending on what I find out there. Ryan, please reconsider, Captain Thane pleaded. We can try to repair the core without the crystalline matrix, maybe find some alternative solution. And maybe we'll all die when the improvised repair fails during takeoff. Ryan's voice carried a note of gentle authority. Captain, I understand you're concerned, but this is what I do. I study life in extreme environments. This planet is just another extreme environment. Through the external cameras, they watched Ryan begin his journey toward the scorching barrens. The landscape between their crash site and his destination looked like something from the deepest levels of hell. Pools of bubbling acid dotted the terrain like toxic lakes. Steam vents released clouds of metallic vapor that would have blinded most species instantly. The ground itself was so saturated with caustic minerals that each step should have eaten through his simple boots. He's maintaining a steady pace of about 5 kilometers per hour, Dr. Nix reported. His heart rate and breathing are completely normal. It's like he's taking a casual hike instead of walking through a death trap. 2 hours into his journey, Ryan encountered the first of X7 Alpha's native life forms. The creature looked like a cross between a spider and a crystal formation, with silicon-based legs that sparked against the rocky ground. Most species would have fled in terror from something so alien and potentially dangerous. Ryan stopped walking and slowly knelt down beside the creature. Ryan, what are you doing? Captain Thane's voice carried obvious panic. Taking notes, Ryan replied calmly. This is incredible. It's a silicon-based organism with what looks like metallic sensory organs. I've never seen anything like it. They watched in astonishment as he allowed the alien creature to crawl over his exposed hands, while he dictated observations into his recorder. The organism appears to feed on metallic compounds in the atmosphere, Ryan continued. Its locomotion system is fascinating. It's actually using chemical reactions between its legs and the ground minerals to generate movement energy. This could completely change our understanding of non-carbon-based life. The creature seemed completely unafraid of Ryan, treating him like a natural part of its environment. After several minutes of study, it moved on to continue its own mysterious business. Ryan resumed his journey with obvious excitement about the discovery. Did that thing just accept him as part of the local ecosystem? Dr. Nix wondered aloud. It gets stranger, Engineer Bolt observed. Look at the atmospheric readings around him. The toxin levels in his immediate vicinity are actually decreasing slightly. It's as if his presence is somehow neutralizing the most harmful compounds. As Ryan continued across X7 Alpha's hellish landscape, the alien crew began to realize they were witnessing something far beyond simple survival. The human wasn't just enduring the planet's hostile environment. He was becoming part of it. His body temperature adjusted to match the external conditions. His skin developed a slight metallic sheen that reflected harmful radiation. Even his breathing pattern changed to more efficiently extract oxygen from the toxic atmosphere. I'm starting to think we don't really understand what humans are, Captain Thane said quietly. We call them deathworlders because they come from a dangerous planet. But maybe the truth is more complex than that. By evening, Ryan had covered 8 kilometers of impossible terrain. He made camp beside a hot spring that registered temperatures high enough to cook most organic tissue. Instead of finding shelter from the deadly environment, he seemed to draw energy from it. The mineral content in this spring is amazing. His voice came over the comm as he collected samples. I'm finding trace elements that shouldn't exist in these concentrations. The volcanic activity must be creating some really unique chemical processes. Dr. Nix checked her long-range scans of his location. Ryan, you're camping beside a pool of liquid metal sulfide. The temperature readings are over 90 degrees Celsius. It's actually quite comfortable, Ryan replied cheerfully. The thermal radiation feels good after a long day of walking. Plus, the mineral vapors seem to be helping my respiratory system adapt to the higher atmospheric density. That night, the alien crew monitored Ryan's vital signs while he slept peacefully beside conditions that would have been instantly lethal to them. His body continued its impossible adaptation process, developing new biological pathways to not just survive but thrive in X7 Alpha's toxic environment. We're watching the birth of a new type of being, Dr. Nix whispered. Not just human anymore, but something evolved specifically for this environment. And he's doing it to save us. Captain, Thane added. A member of a species we barely understand is risking his life to rescue 3 aliens he'd never met before yesterday. The next morning brought even worse conditions. Volcanic activity had increased overnight, filling the air with clouds of metallic particles and raising the atmospheric temperature by 20 degrees. The aliens watched their instruments register environmental conditions that would have killed them in seconds. Ryan emerged from his shelter looking refreshed and energetic. Good morning. Weather's getting interesting out here. The increased volcanic activity should make the crystal formation process even more active. I might find better quality specimens than I originally hoped. As he resumed his impossible journey toward the scorching barrens, the alien crew realized they were no longer just watching a rescue mission. They were documenting the emergence of something completely new in galactic evolution, a species that didn't just survive in extreme environments, but was transformed and strengthened by them. The ground beneath Ryan's feet had become a carpet of living metal. As he approached the heart of the scorching barrens, even his adapted physiology felt the intensity of X7 Alpha's most hostile region. The air shimmered with heat waves that would have cooked most organic matter, while geysers of liquid mercury erupted from underground pressure chambers every few minutes. Ryan, your position puts you at the center of what our instruments classify as a Class 5 death zone, Dr. Nix reported from the safety of their sealed compartment. The atmospheric readings are beyond anything in our databases. It's certainly energetic out here, Ryan replied, his breathing slightly heavier but still remarkably stable. The mineral formations are incredible, though. I'm seeing crystalline structures that shouldn't be possible under normal geological conditions. Through their long-range cameras, the alien crew watched Ryan navigate a landscape that looked like the inside of a fusion reactor. Rivers of molten sulfur flowed between islands of superheated rock, while toxic steam vents created columns of deadly vapor that reached high into the atmosphere. The human moved through it all with the careful precision of an experienced explorer, pausing occasionally to document particularly interesting formations. There, Ryan said suddenly, stopping beside what looked like a metallic waterfall. I found our crystal deposits. The aliens studied the area through their remote sensors and immediately understood the magnitude of the problem. The crystalline formations Ryan needed were embedded in a cliff face that rose nearly 50 meters above a lake of boiling acid. Worse, the entire structure was guarded by something their instruments could barely classify. What in the void is that thing? Captain Thane whispered. The creature that emerged from behind the crystal cliff defied easy description. It stood roughly 3 meters tall on 6 legs that appeared to be made of living metal. Its body incorporated the same mineral compounds as the cliff face, giving it natural armor that sparkled with internal heat. Most disturbing of all, it could project concentrated streams of superheated gas from specialized organs along its sides. A forge beast, Ryan said with obvious fascination rather than fear. That's what I'm calling it anyway. Look at how it's integrated the local mineral content into its biological structure. This is absolutely unprecedented. The creature had clearly noticed Ryan's presence. It moved to position itself between the human and the crystal deposits, its metallic hide glowing with internal heat. When it opened what might have been a mouth, clouds of toxic vapor escaped that would have been instantly lethal to most known Species. Ryan, get out of there immediately, Captain Thane ordered. That thing is obviously territorial and extremely dangerous, but Ryan was already settling into a comfortable position about 20 meters from the forge beast, completely, ignoring the creature's threatening display. Actually, I think it's more curious than hostile. Look at its posture. It's not preparing to attack, it's studying me. The aliens watched in horrified fascination as Ryan and the forge beast engaged in what could only be described as mutual scientific observation. The creature approached slowly, its metallic sensors obviously analyzing this strange new organism that could survive in its domain. Ryan remained perfectly still, allowing the examination while making his own observations. Its hide appears to be a living composite of silicon metallic compounds and some kind of organic binding agent, Ryan dictated into his recorder. The internal heat generation suggests a metabolism based on chemical reactions rather than traditional biological processes. Fascinating. Ryan, that thing could kill you with a single breath of superheated gas, Dr. Nix protested. Probably, Ryan agreed calmly. But it's not trying to. It's trying to understand what I am, just like I'm trying to understand what it is. For the next hour, the alien crew watched an impossible scene unfold. Ryan and the forge beast circled each other in a careful dance of mutual discovery. The creature would approach, examine Ryan with its specialized sensors, then retreat to process the information. Ryan followed a similar pattern, taking readings and samples while maintaining a respectful distance. It's intelligent, Ryan reported. Definitely intelligent, and I think it's beginning to recognize me as another form of life rather than an intrusion into its territory. The breakthrough came when Ryan noticed the creature's molting behavior. Every few hours, the forge beast would shed portions of its metallic hide, replacing them with fresh material incorporated from the mineral-rich environment. The shed scales contained exactly the crystalline compounds they needed for their fusion core repair. It's not hoarding the crystals, Ryan explained excitedly. It's farming them. The creature uses its body heat and metabolic processes to create these specialized mineral formations, then sheds them as part of its natural life cycle. Instead of trying to fight or steal from the forge beast, Ryan began following it through its daily routine. He observed how it selected specific mineral deposits, how it used its internal heat to transform raw materials into useful crystals, and where it deposited the shed scales that were no longer needed. This is the most incredible symbiotic opportunity I've ever encountered, Ryan continued. The creature gets to study a new life form, and I get access to the materials we need without harming anyone. The process took nearly 18 hours. During that time, Ryan experienced the most extreme environmental conditions of his journey. The forge beast's metabolic activities raised the local temperature to levels that would have vaporized most organic compounds. The creature's breathing released clouds of metallic vapor that should have been instantly toxic to any carbon-based life form. Yet Ryan not only survived the exposure, he seemed to draw energy from it. His body continued its impossible adaptation process, developing new biological pathways to process the exotic compounds in the environment. His skin took on an even more pronounced metallic sheen, and his respiratory system became so efficient that he was extracting usable oxygen from atmospheric mixtures that contained less than 1% of the gas. His cellular structure is now completely unlike anything in our biological databases, Dr. Nix reported. Whatever he is now, it's not quite human anymore. When the forge beast finally completed its molting cycle, it deposited several kilograms of specialized crystal scales near Ryan's observation post. The creature's behavior suggested this was an intentional gift, rather than mere coincidence. Thank you, Ryan said to the forge beast, although it was unclear whether the creature understood the concept of gratitude. The journey back to their crashed ship became a race against time. The alien crew's life support systems were failing rapidly, and even Ryan's enhanced physiology showed signs of strain after 30 hours of exposure to X7 Alpha's most hostile environment. His adapted body was performing incredible feats of biological engineering, but even human adaptability had limits. Ryan, your vital signs are showing stress patterns, Dr. Nix reported with growing concern. Your body may have reached the maximum adaptation threshold. I'm fine, Ryan replied, though his breathing was noticeably heavier now. Just need to keep moving. The crystal samples are perfect quality, better than anything we could have manufactured artificially. The return journey pushed Ryan's transformed biology to its absolute limits. The toxic environment that had merely challenged him before was now testing even his enhanced capabilities. His skin showed signs of chemical damage that his body couldn't quite repair fast enough. His respiratory system was working at maximum efficiency, just to extract enough oxygen from the deadly atmosphere. But he kept walking. The alien crew monitored his progress with growing amazement and concern. They were watching someone literally transcend the normal limits of their species through pure determination and biological adaptation. Ryan had become something new. Not quite human anymore, but not entirely alien either. He was a bridge between two types of existence, shaped by forces that no known species had ever survived. He's going to make it, Captain Thane said with quiet awe. Somehow, impossibly, he's going to make it back. And he's bringing everything we need to repair the ship, Engineer Bolt added, including biological data that will revolutionize our understanding of adaptive evolution. As Ryan entered the final kilometers of his journey, the alien crew prepared for emergency medical treatment and rapid fusion core repairs. They had witnessed something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that could literally evolve in real time to meet impossible challenges. We need to get him medical attention the moment he arrives, Dr. Nix said, monitoring his increasingly strained vital signs. After we repair the fusion core, Ryan's voice came back over the comm. Weak, but determined. The ship comes first. I didn't walk through hell just to die in orbit because we ran out of time for repairs. Even pushed beyond the normal limits of human endurance, Ryan remained focused on their mission. The aliens realized they weren't just being rescued by a remarkable individual, they were witnessing the emergence of something completely new in the galaxy's evolutionary history. Ryan collapsed against the Celestial Dawn's hull just as the ship's final backup power systems began to fail. His body had pushed beyond every known limit of biological adaptation, yet somehow he remained conscious and focused on their survival. The crystalline samples from his impossible journey lay scattered around him like precious gems, each one containing the exact molecular structure needed to repair their fusion core. Get him inside immediately, Dr. Nix commanded, her medical scanners showing vital signs that should have been impossible for any living creature. His cellular regeneration is operating at 5 times normal capacity, just to keep him alive. But Ryan waved off their concerns with a hand that showed clear signs of chemical burns. Core first. We have maybe 20 minutes before complete system failure. His voice was hoarse from breathing X7 Alpha's toxic atmosphere for 3 days straight, yet his mind remained sharp with purpose. Engineer Bolt's mechanical systems worked frantically to process the crystal samples Ryan had retrieved. These formations are perfect, better than perfect actually. The molecular alignment is beyond anything our manufacturing processes could achieve. Working together despite Ryan's obvious exhaustion, the human and the mechanoid engineer began the delicate process of installing the new crystalline matrix into their damaged fusion core. Ryan's hands moved with practiced precision, even though his skin showed the accumulated damage of impossible environmental exposure. Each crystal had to be placed with exact alignment to properly contain the fusion reaction that would power their escape from X7 Alpha. Ryan, your cellular damage is approaching critical levels, Dr. Nix reported, her medical instruments tracking the ongoing battle between his body's enhanced repair mechanisms and the accumulated toxic exposure. You need medical treatment now. Almost finished, Ryan replied, installing the final crystal component. Bolt, can you initialize the containment field? The mechanoid engineer's optical sensors flickered as he brought the fusion core back online. Power flowed through the ship's systems for the first time since their crash, activating life support, navigation, and communication arrays. The Celestial Dawn was alive again. Only then did Ryan allow himself to collapse. Dr. Nix's medical bay became a laboratory for studying impossible biology. As she worked to treat Ryan's injuries, she discovered that his body had undergone transformations that challenged everything she understood about organic life. His liver had developed entirely new enzyme pathways to process X7 alpha's exotic toxins. His skin had incorporated trace amounts of metallic compounds that provided resistance to acid and radiation. Most remarkably, his respiratory system had evolved specialized structures that allowed him to extract oxygen from atmospheric mixtures that would have been unbreathable to any other known species. These changes appeared to be partially permanent, Dr. Nix reported to Captain Thane. His body has essentially created new biological systems in response to environmental pressure. This goes beyond adaptation. This is directed evolution. Will he survive? Captain Thane asked, his forearms crossed in worry as he watched the humans' treatment. More than survive. According to these readings, he's actually healthier than he was when we first crashed. His body has used the environmental stress as a catalyst for enhanced biological performance. Dr. Nix shook her crystalline head in amazement. I'm going to need months to fully understand what happened to him out there. As the celestial dawn lifted off from X7 Alpha's toxic surface, Ryan remained unconscious in the medical bay. But his vital signs showed a remarkable recovery rate as his enhanced biology worked to repair the damage from his impossible journey. The ship's sensors recorded his cellular regeneration operating at unprecedented speeds, suggesting that his time on the hostile planet had fundamentally changed how his body functioned. I'm updating our database with a new classification, Captain Thane announced from the bridge. Biological Adaptation Cascade, the process by which certain species can undergo rapid evolutionary changes in response to extreme environmental pressure. Should we report this to the Galactic Scientific Council? Engineer Bolt asked. The implications for xenobiology are enormous. We report everything, Captain Thane replied. But more importantly, we make sure the galaxy understands what we witnessed here. This human didn't just survive X7 Alpha, he conquered it. 2 days later, Ryan awoke to find the ship cruising peacefully through normal space. His body felt different, stronger and more resilient than before his ordeal. Dr. Nix's medical scans confirmed that many of the biological changes he had undergone were permanent improvements rather than temporary adaptations. How do you feel? Dr. Nix asked, studying her instruments with obvious fascination. Good. Really good, actually. Ryan sat up and examined his hands, noting that his skin retained a slight metallic sheen and showed no signs of the chemical damage he had sustained. Different but good. You've become something new, Dr. Nix explained. Your species' adaptability allowed you to literally evolve in real time. The changes to your cellular structure, respiratory system, and metabolic processes represent advances that most species would require millions of years to achieve. Ryan absorbed this information with the same scientific curiosity he had shown throughout their ordeal. Fascinating. I'd like to study the biological samples I collected. The extremophile organisms on X7 Alpha could revolutionize our understanding of life in hostile environments. Captain Thane joined them in the medical bay, his expression mixing gratitude with awe. Ryan, what you did was impossible. You saved all our lives by walking through conditions that should have killed you instantly. It was an incredible research opportunity, Ryan replied with characteristic understatement. Plus, I couldn't let you die in a crashed ship. That would have been terrible for interspecies relations. Word of their adventure spread quickly through galactic communication networks. The story of a human who had walked bare-skinned through one of the galaxy's most hostile worlds became legend within weeks. Scientific institutions across known space requested copies of Dr. Nix's biological data, while military organizations began reassessing their understanding of human capabilities. We're receiving priority clearance at every spaceport, Captain Thane reported. Apparently, having a human crew member is now considered a significant safety advantage. The Celestial Dawn became famous throughout the sector as the ship that had survived X7 Alpha thanks to their human passenger. Other research vessels began requesting human scientists for their most dangerous missions, though few humans showed Ryan's extreme level of environmental adaptability. Dr. Nix published her research on human biological adaptation cascade in the galaxy's most prestigious scientific journals. Her detailed documentation of Ryan's evolutionary changes became required reading in xenobiology programs across civilized space. The concept that certain species could undergo directed evolution in response to environmental pressure revolutionized how the galaxy understood biological adaptation. "I've been thinking about our next research mission," Ryan mentioned casually as they approached their home starbase. "I've heard rumors about a planet in the Omega sector with atmospheric pressures that would crush most known life forms in temperatures that exist only in the cores of stars." The three aliens stared at him in horror. "Absolutely not," Captain Thane stated firmly. "Ryan, you may be adapted for extreme environments, but there are limits even for humans." "Are there, though?" Ryan asked with genuine curiosity. "I mean, we thought X7 Alpha was beyond the limits of biological survival, but that turned out to be wrong. Maybe what we consider impossible is just another challenge waiting to be overcome." Dr. Nix realized that they weren't just dealing with an enhanced human anymore. They were dealing with someone who had transcended normal biological limitations. Ryan had become something new, a bridge between conventional life and the extreme conditions that existed throughout the galaxy. "The galaxy is full of worlds that we classify as completely uninhabitable," Ryan continued, "but maybe they're just uninhabitable to species that haven't learned to adapt. Think of the scientific discoveries waiting on planets too hostile for conventional exploration." Engineer Bolt's mechanical sensors flickered with what might have been alarm. "Ryan, you're talking about deliberately exposing yourself to environments that could kill even your enhanced biology. Or environments that could trigger even more adaptation," Ryan replied. "Evolution doesn't stop, after all. It just finds new challenges to overcome." As the Celestial Dawn docked at their home starbase, the crew realized that their adventure on X7 Alpha had been just the beginning. They had witnessed the birth of something unprecedented in galactic history, a human who had evolved beyond normal biological constraints and was eager to push those boundaries even further. The galaxy's deadliest worlds, previously considered completely beyond the reach of exploration, suddenly seemed accessible. And Ryan Webb, the xenobiologist who had stowed away on their research vessel, was ready to walk bare-skinned through whatever impossible conditions the universe could provide. "Next time," Captain Thane said firmly, "we're bringing better emergency medical equipment. And maybe some basic protective gear," Dr. Nix added, though she suspected it wouldn't be necessary. Ryan smiled as he gathered his samples from X7 Alpha, already planning his next impossible journey into the unknown. "Next time is going to be even more interesting."